In 1910, a crack team of engineers and businessmen created a fastener drive that would revolutionize industry. Today, that fastener drive has become ubiquitous, lingering in every toolbox in America. This is the story of the Allen team. The origin of the hex drive fastener, or Allen screw, begins with its namesake, William G. Allen, whose very simple invention eliminated the so-called Dervishes of death that were killing or maiming up to 1,500 people a year. Born in 1861 in Rockville, Connecticut, William Allen made his home in Hartford, where his first known invention was a machine for making bicycle spokes, designed alongside a George Capewell in 1896 for the American Specialty Company, a hardware firm run by Robert Henry and Daniel Wright, a predecessor to the Henry and Wright Manufacturing Company, which would go on to make industrial machines in 1901. Allen would create several other bicycle-related inventions for American, as well as this rivet-making tool, which would grab onto a piece of wire, pulling it into a die to form the rivet head, automatically cutting off the excess and ejecting it, very similar to how a modern pop riveting tool works. Henry and Wright would spin off a new subsidiary in 1907, the Globe Screw Company, where William Allen would be co-owner. At Globe, Allen invented a hybrid method of cold rolling threads on screws. At the time, screws could either be cut on a lathe, but due to the hardness of the steel, it required multiple passes with a cutting tool to obtain sharp threads. Or they could be rolled through two dies that had the thread pattern machined onto them, but due to the pressure required to form the threads, the dies would wear out quickly and were expensive to replace. Allen created a combo system that used rolling to create an initial partially formed thread, using a lower pressure to save wear on the dies. This partially formed thread would then be cut to its final form on a machine designed by Allen which used rotating cutters and only required one pass. However, while Allen was improving the threaded end of the screw, a danger was looming at the head. While working in the manufacturing industry, Allen had noticed that set screws, the screws that hold pulleys onto shafts, often protruded out. This protrusion on a rotating piece of equipment could easily catch onto a shirt sleeve and pull the worker into the machine. Allegedly, this happened over 1,500 times a year in the U.S. A recessed set screw that stayed flush with the pulley and had a female drive would eliminate the threat of snagging clothes. However, forming a recessed drive structure that wouldn't immediately strip out when torqued down with a wrench wasn't as easy as it sounds. Machining or broaching a hexagon hole into a tiny set screw would prove too expensive and often resulted in a weakened screw. Allen's 1909 design proposed the process of cold drawing, which he dubbed pressure forming, where the end of a blank of round stock would be smooshed by a hexagon-shaped punch. The round stock would then be pressed through a die, causing the bulge to be drawn up the shank of the punch, forming a perfect hexagon-shaped hole. Allen claimed this method maintained the grain structure of the steel, causing the flow lines to flow around the wrench socket, resulting in a 30% stronger screw. But for whatever reason, his partners at Henry and Wright were not interested in this invention. In order for his plan to come together, William Allen would have to assemble a new team. Enter Ira Demock. Another Rockville native, a businessman and an inventor himself, Ira owned a machine shop, the Ideal Machine Works in Northampton, as well as the Northampton Emery Works, a company that made grinding wheels. And in 1855, he became a part owner of the Nonotuck Silk Company in Hartford, a huge textile plant that employed over 800 and could produce up to 6,000 pounds of cloth a week. In May of 1910, William Allen, Ira Demock, his brother Stanley, and another man, J.F. Noyes, incorporated the Allen Manufacturing Company. Their original factory was located on the grounds of the Silk Works on Sheldon Street in Hartford, right about here. The Allen hex drive set screws would revolutionize industry. Advertisements of the era boasted about the screw's strength, claiming the part the screw was installed in would break before the set screw did. Variations were produced with different style tips for different applications, and Allen would also produce screws with socket heads, flat heads, pipe plugs, as well as dowel pins. In these early years, Allen was basically just a hardware manufacturer, just making the screws. The Allen wrench, or Allen key, was something of a necessary afterthought, something to be thrown in with a box of set screws for free. That is, until the screws started proliferating everywhere, necessitating the sale of full-size hex key sets, which would soon find their way into every workshop in the country. Despite this success, in 1920, following the death of his previous partners Henry and Wright, William Allen would leave the company that bore his name to take over as president of Henry and Wright. His final invention came in 1922 when he designed this drill press. Allen would also reorganize Henry and Wright, actually demoting himself down to sales manager, a position he worked at until his death in 1928 at the age of 67. There is very little information out there on Allen's personal life. I cannot find any record of him ever getting married or having kids, but he must have accumulated substantial wealth through his multiple inventions and business endeavors. If anybody has any more information on Allen himself, let me know in the comments below. Anyway, even with their namesake gone, the Allen team would still live on. After Ira Demock's death in 1917, Allen Manufacturing would be taken over by a Joseph King, who retired in 1921, turning the company over to Horace R. Grant, who would expand the company into producing hand tools. Previously, the only tool that they sold was the hex wrench or key. Horace facilitated the purchase of the Bay State Pump Company in 1922. Bay State produced injector pumps and primer systems for cars. Using Allen's pressure-forming method, automotive socket wrenches would soon be produced, and combined with this cool T-handle designed by Solomon Campbell, they were sold under the Bay State brand in Allen catalogs. They would also produce L-handle socket wrench sets, as well as speeder handle style sets. During World War II, Allen would produce literal tons of Allen head screws for the war effort, the screws proving an integral part for aircraft manufacture. Allen Manufacturing would continue to grow and remain a successful privately owned company until... In April of 1956, when Allen Manufacturing was sold to Chicago Pneumatic, at the time a huge publicly traded conglomerate and manufacturer of air tools, CP would close down the original Hartford factory and move the company to a newer facility in nearby Bloomfield in 1958. Chicago Pneumatic would merge with Jacobs of Jacobs Chuck fame in 1984 and go on to purchase Matco Tools in '85. CP would start moving some of Allen's production to Shanghai, China in the mid-'80s, but things were largely going fine for Allen under Chicago Pneumatic rule until 1986, when CP suffered an allegedly hostile takeover by the Danaher Corporation. Longtime viewers of the channel already know where this is going. Danaher had previously purchased 68% of CP's stock on the open market and then put in a tender offer of $60.8 million for the remaining shares. This came at a time when CP executives were planning on starting an employee ownership program where 1 million shares of the company would be distributed to the company's employees. Allegedly, Danaher's bid included a condition that the employee ownership program be scrapped. And since Danaher's offer amounted to $38 a share at a time when the company was trading for $27, there was no way for CP to stop the takeover, and the employee ownership plan was canceled, and Danaher took control of Chicago Pneumatic. Allen's Connecticut plant would be shut down, and the remaining USA screw production was moved to Danaher's Dallas, Texas plant. In '87, Danaher sold Chicago Pneumatic. Danaher then acquired Easeco in 1990, sold Matco in '93, and purchased Armstrong in '94. Danaher would expand Allen's hand tool line to include a full line of wrenches, ratchets, and sockets. However, most of these were just rebrands of existing tools made in the KD or Armstrong plants. In 2010, Danaher's tool division merged with Cooper Tools to form the Apex Tool Group. Apex would soon be purchased by another private equity firm, Bain Capital, in 2012. In 2014, Bain sought to consolidate all of the firm's factories into one plant in Sumter, South Carolina. However, this was short-lived, as the Sumter plant would be closed in 2017, with the Allen, KD, and Armstrong brands being completely killed off, and the other brands' production being offshored overseas. Well, that sucks. But even though you can no longer get a Allen-branded ratchet, the legacy of the Allen team still lives on. Today, hex drive fasteners are everywhere, colloquially referred to as Allen screws regardless of who manufactured them. Same thing for the hex keys. To me, these'll always be Allen wrenches. I don't care if it's not the proper terminology. Anyway, that's the full story of the Allen screw, and be sure to check out the rest of the Tool Lore playlist if you haven't already. Thanks everyone for watching. See you later. Bye.